Welcome to the PSR YouTube channel. Hey, I love YouTube. YouTube's awesome. It's awesome. You should become a YouTube creator. Totally. This video will get monetized. Yes.
Whoa, yeah. We're having lots of family fun now. Whoa, yeah. None of these are real guns now. Whoa, yeah. Also got a Patreon, the link is in description. Got some merch too, yeah, you know you wanna get some.
Thank you for being patient. I think we've stroked the algorithm enough for today. The video starts in 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of PSR. It is an absolute joy, as always, to have you with me here on this strange and weird corner of the internet that we call my YouTube channel. What are we talking about today? Well, today we're getting into some AK-tism. Yes, this here is quite the AK. I don't know if it's cursed or based or both, probably a little bit of both, but we're going to talk all about it, and especially this awesome chassis system that it utilizes. But first, I've got to thank the channel sponsor for PSR, and that is AVES Engineering. So what does AVES Engineering, also known as AVES Rails, make? Well, they make all sorts of slidey bits. So a lot of your favorite DIY projects, particularly ones involving glizzies, they need rails. AVES has got you covered for those rails. And also, I would never ever use the code PSR for 10% off your entire order from AVES. Just don't do it. It's so scary, don't do it. So thanks again to AVES for sponsoring this channel. Now let's get into talking about this AK. This AK started out as a Kalashnikov USA KP 104. Now the AK-104 is essentially a short-barreled AK-103. I think Kalashnikov USA does a great job making a clone of the original Russian gun. Now I did do a review of the bone stock version of this gun in its pistol glory without anything on the back, looking sort of like a AK-100 series Draco essentially. So if you want more information on the stock gun, definitely check that video out. But this video is going to be me explaining all of these decisions that I made to turn this into the ultimate Starship Enterprise ass AK. Guys, if you shoot AKs, you know 7.62x39 has gotten absolutely insane in terms of the price. It's gone way up in the past few years. To make a video like this and put a lot of rounds through a gun is very expensive. So I gotta thank Premium Rounds, who provided all of the 7.62x39 ammo for this video. As of right now, I think they got the most competitively priced 7.62x39, and I definitely couldn't have made this video without their help. So I appreciate Premium Rounds supporting this video. Let's get back to it. My main goal of this gun was to take it to the extreme. Take it to a place the AK maybe has never seen before. So bone stock as it is, the KP-104, I think it's a great option for a pistol if you want something kind of like a Draco, but a little bit more modern. Kind of impractical because, you know, you can't put it up against your shoulder unless you put a brace on it, which now with the injunction going on is okay, but when I filmed the video, it kind of wasn't okay. So given that the KP-104 had some limitations unless you had a stock on it, I decided to put a stock on it. However, I pinned and welded the barrel. It's essentially a booster. It's made by CNC Warrior. It allows the barrel length to be over 16 inches, which makes this compliant with the NFA, so it's not a short-barreled rifle. So that was goal number one, make it more useful by putting a stock on it. Now goal number two was to make it a modern AK, something that I could use modern accessories with, absolutely take it to the limit. The centerpiece of this here AK, this piece of art, is the Sure Shot Armament Group MK3 Chassis. This is a US made chassis system, and I have to give a huge shout out to my boy Bandito Bill. Everyone check him out on Instagram. He posts some pretty badass AK content. He reached out and said, yo dude, I know you've been getting into space AKs. Do you want to take it to peak space AK? And I was like, yeah. Now the first time I actually saw one of these chassis in the wild being run was Ziga from Polinar Tactical running one of these on his Saiga 308 at Finish Brutality. He beat everyone. He won Finish Brutality. If that's not a testament to this being actually proven, you know, I don't know what it is. This thing fucks. So what exactly is the Mark III chassis from Sure Shot Armament Group USA? This thing modernizes your AK, and it does it in a way that other chassis simply kind of don't do. This allows you to hold zero with all of your optics, and the way that it's designed is it allows you to actually remove parts of the rail without losing zero. This is great for when you're cleaning your rifle. A lot of these AK chassis have a hard time maintaining zero because of the nature of the design of the AK. Now, a key difference between the Mark 2.1 and the Mark III is this here dust cover rail. You might be wondering, yeah, well, how is that going to hold zero? The dust cover here is actually two different pieces. This piece is really the dust cover and it ends here. The rest of it is actually part of this whole front monolithic rail piece. The bottom of this handguard slides off, whereas the top stays in. It's actually sitting super tight here right against the front trunnion. It just mounts very securely. The optic, which is mounted here, stays zeroed regardless because it is connected to this whole front piece, and this is a free floated rail. Now the back section here, which is actually the dust cover which comes off, this is meant for magnifiers and things like that. Things that don't need to hold zero. So perfect place to put a magnifier. Another great thing about the chassis is that just like an AR upper, essentially, it's all on one plane. This results in only gaining 12 ounces over your factory setup. So you gain a lot of functionality with only gaining a little bit more weight.
Oh, hey there. Are you an FFL or a small business owner and you're tired of getting absolutely raw dogged like I'm doing with this VZ61 by credit card processing companies? Well, boy, I got a solution for you, and it's called FFL Payments. FFL Payments is a community of firearms enthusiasts, and they know exactly how it feels getting stiff from behind by these big corporations taking your gosh darn hard-earned money. FFL Payments can offer a plan that's tailor-made to fit your needs. Now, if you sign up with FFL Payments and you tell them PSR sent you, you'll get a free terminal, which is a $400 value. Say goodbye to them high rates, sudden service termination, and hidden costs, and check out FFL Payments. They're a sponsor of today's video, if you didn't already pick that up.
Another aspect of this chassis system that's great is thermal characteristics. The rail allows you to really dump a bunch of rounds downrange without getting your hand too hot. And I definitely dumped a lot of rounds downrange. That is a big plus to this chassis system. Now, another positive about having this rail is that you can put it up against like barricades or, you know, have a bipod on there and you won't have to worry about point of impact shift, because that can be an issue with the AK platform if you're just putting the barrel against, you know, let's say a wood barricade. So with this rail, you're able to use all sorts of modern accessories. You can basically put anything that you'd put on an AR on this AK and not worry about it losing zero or getting too hot, which is pretty badass. Now, Sure Shot also makes a skeletonized AR buffer tube adapter, which is pretty sweet, and I mounted it to this rifle, and it is an extremely solid piece. This thing is not going anywhere. We have a Mission First Tactical stock on here because I thought it looked pretty cool and it just fit the vibes. As you can see, it's a skeletonized AR buffer tube. To me, AR buffer tube stocks just look kind of lame on AKs, but this is the only exception. It's got a QD sling swivel mount, and it's fully adjustable just like a normal AR stock. When you make it long, you can actually fold this up and it stays pretty tight to the rifle. Now, it doesn't lock in like the factory stock, but it makes this thing quite a short little package. Another small benefit to this chassis is that you don't lose the factory sights. Now, as you can see, I've done quite a bit to this thing, so we can't use our factory sights. But if you wanted to, you could, because you can still see the factory iron sights just as you would with the normal gun. Now, I chose black for this, but there are a bunch of different colors. I think there's 5 Cerakote options for it, including plum, which is just super badass. I want to paint this thing, so maybe we'll do that on the next Joy of Painting series. But for right now, it's black. I think it looks good. Let's talk about the optics setup. So this is probably the most absurd element of the entire AK. I used a $40 fake Hydra mount that I found, I think on AliExpress. Shame me if you want, but it's actually doing great and it held zero just fine. Now the optic itself was provided to me by Kalashnikov USA. It's actually a optic that's made in Korea, and I believe they actually use this in service in their military. So it is a vetted optic. Hoplopfile did a review on it. It's rebranded a few different times, but I'd check out his review on it. It's been a very good optic. I have no complaints. Now, if you watch the intro, I did have an EOTech on here. Before I turned this into a rifle, I wanted to see what it was like as a pistol, so I had a brace on it, and I had the EOTech with no night vision laser or anything like that, and it definitely made it a lighter setup. So I shot a little bit of both. This and the more streamlined setup with the EOTech, definitely more functional with the EOTech and not this absurd, crazy height over bore situation. But you know what? We wanted to take it to the max, and this is definitely max height over bore. This right here is the Somo Gear PEC 15. It is an airsoft laser. There were a bunch of people buying these. I don't know if they still are, but this is the potted version. Can't really give my full review on it because I haven't really put it to the test. But from what I've heard, these do fall apart under a lot of use. But for this build and how absurd it is, I thought I'd put it on here. Now, to actuate the laser and the light, we're using this Somo Gear provided dual light switch. Obviously it's screwed in there, but I also put some of these bands on there. These are the Strike Industries, mainly just for wire management. So these keep everything from getting snagged, although I think we have some other things to worry about when it comes to getting snagged, like this entire thing. It is what it is. Also, I should mention that the front sight, the way it worked was I barely could fit this on this front chassis piece. So what I had to do was I put it on the rail, and it's not going on to the unzeroable part. It's still on the front here, but the rear sight was actually hitting the arm of the mount, so I had to flip it forward, so it kind of even looks more absurd and space AK-like. But I shot it like that and it did fine. If you really wanted to get serious, you could just knock the front side out, but I didn't want to do that because it still fits on there fine. Thanks to Nathan for giving me this Surefire Scout light. It's sitting on an Arasaka mount. I would probably just do like a normal mount in the future, because then I could actually probably mount this tape switch somewhere else and then mount my laser on the front. But like I said, we're taking it to the max tism, max absurdity, so we went with this whole thing. Now this grip is an emissary grip here. You can pull it right up against your chest here. This is going up against your chest. It is not a single cheek weld situation, not even a chin weld. We are just straight up 2 points of contact, not 3 anymore. For night vision stuff, you're not gonna like going down here with your nods. So being up here is actually kind of preferred. The EOTech mounted directly on the rail without all this bullshit is definitely more practical. We have some forward controls designs, M-lock, grip panels here. I mounted a QD attachment here for the sling. And like I said before, there is a QD attachment both on the stock and on this stock adapter. Another cool thing that Sure Shot Armament makes, which I forgot to mention, is they make an ACR stock adapter, and that looks insane on the AK, honestly. It looks super cool. Last but not least, in terms of the furniture stuff, this is a Driven Arms Co. grip. It's one of my favorite looking grips. I just think it looks super cool. But the funny thing is it's actually an AR grip. They don't make an AK grip yet. Actually, I think they just announced one, which is kind of cool. This is an AR grip, and I used an Ergo adapter, which is basically an AK to AR adapter. Full TISM, taking the AR grip, put it on the AK. It sits a little bit lower than it normally should, and there's a little gap in between here where the receiver is and this adapter. It did fine for me when I was using it. As far as the installation of this chassis goes, it was super easy. It was about 20 minutes. I had no issues with it. Fitment was perfect on the KP104. I don't know about some other AKs, but this one fit really easy. There's a video on YouTube that they provide, perfect, that just shows all of the installation steps, so it was not an issue. As far as the performance of this AK, I will say there is one last thing that I added that I think is probably my favorite aspect of this whole thing, and that is the trigger. So you may have seen in the intro, I was going pretty fast. This trigger is definitely what helped me do that. So I'm watching a lot of AK content from other creators, Clayco47, for example. He swears by the ALG triggers, and I want to try one of those, but I don't have one of those yet. What I used is a Tommy Triggers drop-in AK trigger. This was provided to me by Relentless Triggers, so shouts out to them. It is a drop-in trigger that fits pretty much any AK because it's actually got a system which allows you to adjust where the holes are meeting up in that receiver. So it's really easy to get the right fitment. I ran into some issues with getting it to work properly with the safety. I was able to pull the trigger on safe, and that is never a good thing. Now, you may run into different results with your AK. It might work fine with the stock safety, but it did not work with this KP104. And what I ultimately ended up doing was I got a Hyperfire selector, which allows you to get the proper safety engagement on pretty much any trigger. Once I got the trigger to work with the engagement of the safety, I ran into another issue where the rear dust cover part, it was sticking down a little bit further than it normally would, a little bit more forward, so that the safety selector actually wasn't able to fully seat itself all the way up top. It was sitting kind of right in between here, which it was still functioning as a safety would and working. However, it wasn't sitting flush, and that just bothered me. I couldn't go forward without fixing it. So what I did was I did a little bit of dremeling, made this a little bit smaller, made the clearance there, and then put some steel blue on it, and it worked perfect now, and it sits just right and goes to that hole and just clicks perfect. So this drop-in trigger from Tommy Triggers is super light, super short reset, allows you to go pretty damn fast. Let's just ghost it real quick. Here we are. So barely any take up, and there it is. Now the reset. Look at this reset. Super short reset. Very tactile. You can hear the click pretty good. Just barely any take up. Super short. The biggest takeaway, check if the safety works or not. I can pull it as hard as I want. Not gonna click. But when I was installing it initially, I was pulling it and I was like, okay, safety works. And then I'd pull a little bit harder and then it would go bang. And not good if you have ammo inside the barrel and you're not trying to hit the safety and it goes bang. Luckily, I didn't desk pop in my house. You do not want your gun to go bang when the safety's on. Not good. This thing is a chunky boy. After adding this CNC Warrior booster on the front, it is quite front heavy. In addition to that, having this absurd optic night vision laser setup is not doing it any favors as well. This thing weighs just over 10 pounds, which is pretty absurd for a gun that doesn't even have a 16-inch barrel. The way I have this set up right now with everything kind of front heavy on it, it is a bit of a bear to lug around, but I chose this path. Now, when I had it set up as a pistol initially, I put the AK-103 muzzle brake on it, and I had just the EOTech and the light, and it ran really nice. It was a lot more balanced, so that's probably the best setup. So I may just go back to the EOTech after doing this video, because I want to just see what it'd be like with this absurd setup on here. But with the EOTech and just a light, it's much more of a practical and fun gun to shoot, and it's not as front heavy. The rail on this thing really turns this gun from being a pretty outdated weapon system to being fully modernized. And while it is not an AR in terms of just how quickly you can operate some of the reloads and stuff, if you have this chassis system on here and you train with it enough, it's certainly a very capable platform. And not to mention, it just gives the ultimate space AK vibes, in my opinion. Now, as far as a round count goes in this thing, I've probably put about 1,000 rounds through this gun. Not a ton of rounds, but so far it's been doing great. I haven't had any issues with it. Short-barreled AKs I think are awesome, especially when you can fold it and tuck it and store it. It's a nice vehicle gun. So yeah, that's a little bit about my TISM'd AK, and I hope you enjoyed me talking about the setup, what it's like, how it was to shoot. I'm going to be doing a lot more AK content in 2024, and they're just so much fun. I love just the little nuances and the history behind AKs, all of the different development and the stories behind them. So if that stuff interests you, there's going to be some more content coming soon, including the Plastikoff, a squirted Draco. So yeah, once again, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support. I do have a Patreon, I do have merch, and I have links in the description to that. If you want to support me there, that's great. If not, that's totally fine. You could always like and subscribe, or don't. But thanks for watching the video and making it to this point. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.